What's going on, bottom line viewers? It's Mitch back here with another NFL record prediction video and schedule analysis. In this video, I'm going to break down the Cleveland Browns 2020 NFL schedule, give you my record prediction for the Browns in 2020, and what games I think they'll win, what games I think they'll lose, and how they will do overall in this 2020 NFL season. Before I dive into the Browns, make sure that you do Gronk spike the like button. Subscribe to the Bottom Line View for more NFL videos just like this. And comment your opinion below on what you think the Browns' record will be in 2020. All right, so let's get into the record for the Cleveland Browns. Pulling up their schedule. They started off with a tough week one, man. They play the Baltimore Ravens, the AFC's number one seed in 2019. Their AFC North rival on the road. And this is just about the worst opener any team could ask for. Baltimore, after that loss they had in the playoffs versus the Titans, are going to be pissed. And they are going to want to come out and they want to absolutely bully people. I think the Ravens will win this game, but I will say, I think the Browns match up decently well with the Ravens, better than most AFC teams in the conference, and I do think that next game versus the Ravens is going to be very, very interesting there in Week 14, and we'll get to that one. But I will say that the Ravens at home will win their opener because Harbaugh is always prepared, and I'm just not sure the Browns will be at the same level come week one. So week number 2, the Bengals travel to Cleveland. I believe this is a Thursday night football game, and they're going to see Joe Burrow for the very first time. It's going to be first overall pick versus first overall pick, Mayfield versus Burrow. I'm going to go with the Browns at home in this game. I think this is going to be a pretty entertaining game, but I do think the Browns just have too much firepower for the Bengals defense and too much to worry about that's going to spread them thin. The Browns can really run the rock. They improved their offensive line a ton in the offseason, and they can also pass the ball. And I think we're going to see in this game versus the Bengals their ability to be balanced on offense. Then they play the Redskins week 3. That's also at home. I think that's an easy win again. Washington does have a very good front seven, and if they were playing last year's Cleveland Browns, this might be an opportunity for Washington to get an upset on the road, but I don't think they really have the quarterback. They don't have the offense that really scares the Browns. I think the Browns defense, that's probably the unit I'm most intrigued to see this year for Cleveland. I think their offense will get back on track, but their defense is very high ceiling, but also pretty low floor. I think there's a lot of different ranges on the spectrum that we could see from the Browns defense in a lot of different games. I think it might be a unit that dominates in some games, but in other games might not show up. And that's going to be in week 4 when they play a really tough Dallas Cowboys offense. And that's probably the first time we're going to get to see them play like a traditional, really good offense. Like week 1, the Baltimore Ravens, they have a really good offense, but it's in an untraditional fashion. You know, it's Lamar Jackson, their rushing attack. They really want to run the ball, and they do it uniquely. And it's very unique. The most unique offense probably in the NFL. Then they play the Bengals, who have a lot of weapons, but not necessarily a great overall offense. Washington's probably one of the worst offenses in the league. And then they play Dallas with those 3 receivers and the running game they have and the offensive line. So that's going to be a big game for their defense. They're traveling to Dallas, so this is a big prove-it game for Cleveland. But I do think Dallas wins this game because they're at home. If this game was in Cleveland, I may switch sides here. If Cleveland's able to run the rock and establish the line of scrimmage and Myles Garrett has a big game versus their offensive line, then possibly Cleveland could win this one. But I think Dallas is probably just slightly the more reliable team. I think Dallas is going to be a really good team this year. Then week 5, they play the Colts, which I think is going to be a smash-mouth football game. You're going to have the Colts, the Browns just trying to run the rock down each other's throats, in my opinion. And both really good, powerful offensive lines. And I think whoever can dictate the time of possession will end up winning the game. Both quarterbacks have kind of a reckless style of play. I think Cleveland will find a way to pick up this win, although it's not going to be easy. I think Indy is a pretty good team and pretty improved from last year. Week 6, they play Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh. This is a tough game, again, on the road. And I think Pittsburgh, they probably end up splitting with Pittsburgh. So I'm going to give them a win when they're at home in Week 17, but a loss in Week 6. I think Pittsburgh's going to be much better this year because Ben Roethlisberger is back. Their defense is loaded. They have a great pass rush. And I'm just not sure Baker Mayfield is going to be able to make enough plays versus this defense. Ben Roethlisberger, man, at home, tough to beat. Week 7, the Cincinnati Bengals once again. I think they can sweep the Bengals, although I don't know, man. I think Cincinnati could easily beat them once because you never know. It's an AFC North rivalry. We'll come back to that one, actually. I might switch that one to Cincinnati because I think Cincinnati's actually better than people want to give them credit for. It really comes down to how good is Burrow in his first year, and that's kind of something we will never know until we see him play. Week 8, they play the Raiders, which I think, again, another team like the Colts, which offensively very similar. They want to run the ball, they want to play action you, and they want to use their big offensive lines to dictate the line of scrimmage. Defensively, I think Cleveland is better. I think Cleveland's more talented, and they're also at home, so I'm going to give this one to Cleveland. Now, there's a bye week, and then they play Houston. If this game was in Houston or if this game was not after a bye week, I might give it to Deshaun Watson just because he can make magic in a shootout type game, but I'm going to go with Cleveland because after the bye week, they should be able to refresh, fix whatever they need to fix, and be ready to go versus the Texans in Week 10, so I think they'll pick up that win. Now, Week 11, they play the Eagles at home. I think the Eagles will find a way to win this game. I think the Eagles are one of the better teams in the NFC this year, and I really like the way they match up with Cleveland. I think their front seven really can stop the run, and that will force Baker into some uncomfortable positions. On the flip side, Carson Wentz is an animal, and he could carry a team by himself. I think those tight ends are going to be very difficult for the Browns to match up with, given their linebacking position is their weakness. So I'm going to go with Philadelphia. Week 12, they play Jacksonville on the road. I think they pick up the win because Jacksonville, I think, might be the worst team in the AFC this year. Then Week 13, you play the Titans, who the Titans dominated you guys last year. I think this game will be closer. And I don't think the Titans will be quite as good as they were last year, but I think the Titans can still find a way to win because I think the Titans match up very well versus the Browns. And I'm not going to say it's going to be out of hand the way it was last year, but I do think Tennessee at home with Derrick Henry can take it to the Browns. So I'm going to go with Tennessee there. Then they play Baltimore at home. I want to save that for last. Week 15, I think they can beat the Giants possibly here. Yeah, I think they could beat the Giants on the road. Let me think. That's interesting. Very interesting. The Giants are an interesting team because I feel like they're going to be able to pull off a lot of upsets we don't see coming, but then they're also going to have games where they just get straight up blown out. And what the Giants are really good at is they're really good at stopping the run, as is the Jets. So, you know what? I think they're going to lose one of these games in New York. I'm not sure which one. I'm going to say they end up losing the game versus the Giants just for the sake of the video, and they beat the Jets. But I think it's going to be really interesting, that stretch where they play the Giants and the Jets 2 weeks in a row, which is very, very rare, and they play back-to-back New York games in the same stadium. So I think it would be more likely that they win after playing in New York the first time because they'll stay in New York. They'll be basically used to the stadium after playing a game there. So it's more likely they win that one. And then in week 14, they'll play Baltimore. So I think it's more likely they're used to the Giants because that physical game versus Baltimore on Monday night on a short week, it's going to cause them to probably have some sore legs, let's just say, sore body all around. Week 14, Baltimore. I think they're going to beat Baltimore the second time they play them. They beat them last year early in the year. I think Cleveland, like I said, matches up well with them. I think if they can run the ball and keep Lamar on the sidelines, then they can win the game. And on the opposite side, I think that defensively, they're fast, so they should be able to contain Lamar at the very least. But I think they could be able to win a shootout on Monday night in Cleveland, which is a big game for them in prime time because they'll be fighting for a playoff spot at this point. And I think that's what I'm going to give them. I think I'm going to give them a 10-6 record. Maybe they lose to the Colts also, which would make them 9-7. But as I've brought up a couple times already, I think the Browns are going to go to the playoffs this year. I think they're a much better team after a really good offseason. I think they've improved their offensive line. They've improved their defensive line. I think they've even improved their secondary. And I'm really intrigued to see this team with a new coach and just start over from the hype fest that was last year. And they won't have the same hype going in this year, which I think helps them. So I have the Browns at 10-6, maybe surprising to some. But let me know in the comment section what you guys have the record for the Cleveland Browns in 2020. It's been Mitch with the Bottom Line View. If you enjoyed, Gronk, spike that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. It's Mitch. Peace.